So here we are again. We begin again. We just completed a whole cycle, a whole year of reading and studying Torah, and we begin again. You might ask, once you finish a book, why would you read it again? Wouldn't you go on to another book? And it's a good question, and it's a good point, but part of our tradition is always continuing this never-ending, endless cycle of studying the text. The text remains the same, yet we change as we enter into the text, and so the text definitely changes with us as we grow. And for me, this is the essence of spiritual practice. This continual cycle of growing with it. And so we're always beginning. Beginner's mind. Always being a student. Returning to the beginning with fresh eyes as if we're seeing it for the first time. So there's a directive when meditating, and that helps in the beginning process of studying, of meditating, of counting one's breath. And so on the inhale and the exhale, you count 1 all the way up to 10, and then you begin again. And when a thought comes into your mind and you get distracted, you begin again at 1. And sometimes you never leave 1. And that's just fine. So on Simchat Torah, the past few years, we've done the practice of bibliomancy, right? Of counting, of picking out a verse in Torah, and that verse is what guides you along throughout the whole year. This year, I just asked folks to pick 1 letter. We're simplifying it a little bit. And then to build on that 1 letter. And so tonight, I'm picking 2 letters. 1 word, it's a particle. This is chemical, spiritual, bibliomancy, charades, okay? The word is et. Aleph, tav, et. You can see it here. I shared with you. I made a little diagram for us to guide us along tonight in our study of this first sentence in our Torah, okay? About this word et. Okay, this word et is the most frequently used word in the Hebrew language, and it doesn't even have a meaning. Okay? It is a structural word that tells us something about the grammar of a sentence, and as a footnote right here, grammar, whether it's English or Hebrew, doesn't matter, not my strong suit. But anyway, I'm going to grow with grammar tonight. Okay? The word et comes before a definitive object. It has no equivalent in the English language, and therefore very difficult to translate when into English. And in the first word of the Bible, in the first word of Torah, this word appears twice. Okay? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. When God was about to create the heavens and the earth was chaos. So that's 1.5 lines, the first line and a half of our story. So there's lots of debate on how to translate the first words, Bereshit bara Elohim. There's lots of questions as why does the Torah start with a bet and not an aleph, right? And there's also comments that ask, why didn't we just start with the first mitzvah that was commanded upon the Jewish people to create a calendar in the book of Exodus? Why does it start with the creation story in Genesis? That's not what I'm focusing on tonight. Okay? What I want to focus on and reflect on is this little particle, this little word that has no direct translation, but creates infinite meaning. So this word et is used twice, and grammatically it really only needs to be used once. Et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Et, the sky, and et, the land. So there's a juxtaposition happening here tonight between land and sky or heavens. And for me, this word et, is pointing at 2 ways of being. There's a Hasidic teaching from the Me'or Enayim, Menachem Mendel. He was a student of the Baal Shem Tov. He teaches us, since it is the Torah that is in with all things, that gives them life, we should pay close attention not to their corporeal form, but to their inner selves. This is the meaning of in the beginning, Bereshit bara. It is through Torah that heaven and earth came to be, that they and all with them. Thus our sages taught that the particle et in this verse is there to include all that was born in heaven and earth. Everything that is born is contained in these word et, aleph and tav. If we can experience Torah like a blueprint for life, then the opening of our story, this word et, is coming to teach us about the totality of different ways that we move through life with all of our layers. Our corporeal form and our inner selves, our physical selves and our spiritual selves. How much are we aware of these two layers as we move through our days together? Our outer layer, et haaretz, and our inner layer, et hashamayim. The earthly or material level, the ethereal and the spiritual level. On a mental level, we could even talk about this as mochin diktanut and mochin digadlut, something we've studied a lot in our days together. Narrow mind and spacious mind. And so in this first sentence of the Torah, in this first sentence of the Bible, our first directive is to be aware of these two layers within ourselves, the physical and the spiritual, the narrow-minded way of thinking and the expansive way of thinking. We can ask ourselves, what is the balance of the physical and spiritual in our lives? How often do I spend focusing in the narrow form of mind with blinders on? How much am I spending time in a spiritual, more expansive way of living and moving through life? And so, am I peering through life with a narrow lens? Or am I peering through life with a real spacious, expansive lens? How wide is the space between the story I am telling and the one that I want to live? How wide is the space between the life that I am living and the one that I want to live? And so, in the next line of Torah that we have, and I'm only going to go into the first half of the word, the first half of that sentence. So we're only looking at a sentence and a half. And by the way, we could have just focused on the first letter of the Torah today. I'm going a little extra, 11 words. I'm bringing 11 words into our conversation, more than one letter, so it's a big jump, I know. The next half of the second sentence says, V'ha'aretz haita tohu vavohu. And the earth, read the physical layer, or the corporeal or the narrow mind, was chaos and unformed. So the simple reading of the text is the earth, but when God was beginning to create, the earth was formless and it was a void and formless, so there was chaos, right? On a deeper reading of this, and we know that we've been studying about the multiple layers of study that we can use when we enter into reading the simple level of the text. So tonight I'm teaching on a deeper level than the pshat level, than on a simple reading of the text. So that on a deeper reading of this text points to the idea that when we focus only on haaretz, when we focus only in the narrow mind, on the corporeal, on the physical, chaos ensues. Tohu vavohu. This is the chaos that grows out of the narrow mind of thinking. This is the chaos that when we focus on old patterns and we get stuck in old stories. When we get caught up in our stories so much that they become our reality. When we dwell in regrets for so long that we get taken out of the here and now. When we dwell in this grass is always greener mentality. When we walk with our heads down, facing the earth, missing the expanse of the sky. Living in this level, this thought pattern is formless and void because they pay no attention to the life force, which is none other than right here and right now. Bohu, right here. So Rashi plays on this idea. Bohu, instead of reading it as chaos, is bohu, right here. When God began to create the heavens and the earth was chaos. When we begin to create, we have two stories going on. One that can get us stuck in the chaos of the past, and one that is teeming with life right here and right now. Spend too much time in the formless and in the void of old stories, and we miss the spacious, infinite possibilities of Shemayim, of the heavens, of the sky, of the present moment. What wakes me up to this teaching, this awareness, this way of moving through life, is just two letters, aleph and tav, et, a particle. Used twice in our opening line, While some of us might see this as a repetition of words and as grammatically redundant, I experience it as etiologically infinite. Et, Aleph and Tav. It's the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the whole Torah is contained within it. We contain the whole Torah within ourselves. I'm becoming more aware of the balance between these two layers. My Aret self, the physical, the corporeal, and sometimes narrow-mindedly self, and the Shemayim self, the spacious, the spiritual self. And I'm learning to be more aware of what leads me in either direction. And so as we begin to read our Torah again from the beginning, we'll start it again tomorrow. We celebrated it on Simchat Torah, but we formally begin the reading of the Torah again tomorrow. This is our story. This is the narrative of our people. May we also see our own personal story within it. And I'm fully recognizing that what we teach is what we have to learn. So the blessing blossoming out of this word et, and this is what I want to share with all of you, is that we not get too caught up in our old stories as if they were realities. And may we release those stories that no longer serve us. Noticing when regret takes us out of the here and now. May we recognize that we are all evolving and we are always dealing with unfinished business. And right now, we are all called to move from being self-involved to sharing. That in balancing haaretz and shemayim, the earth and the sky, the physical and the spiritual, that we are always exactly where we are supposed to be, however difficult that might feel at sometimes. May we love ourselves conditionally no matter what is happening. This is how we open our Torah and begin again this year. And so I just want to finish with a poem by T.S. Eliot that helped me and guides me into the beginning of this reading of Torah in this cycle 5781. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown, remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple trees, not known, because not looked for, but heard, half heard, in the stillness between two waves of the sea. So I wish everybody a sweet Shabbat.